How many of you read your news online? Virtually all of you, right? Then I'm sure you're very familiar with the events that transpired in Egypt over the last several weeks, right? But imagine for a moment that you're not in Washington, D.C. You're sitting in classrooms in Shanghai and Beijing. How familiar are you with the news? Like Egypt? Realize that the news is censored through the state TV. And it's hired by the same people who created Jing Jing and Cha Cha. But I realized that Egypt is so far, far away. How about something that happened in their own backyard? Tiananmen Square. Try Googling Tiananmen Square, and what do you get? Do you get tanks? Or do you get tulips? We believe that if you deprive people of internet freedom, you are depriving people of a free mind. And what Brandon is going to talk next, he's going to ask you the question whether Google is an innocent bystander or are they complicit of evil. 2 years ago, a lady by the name of Lu Yubao was assaulted in a hotel room by a government official Chinese. The man pushed her on the sofa and then began to rape her. She took a pocket knife and stabbed him in the neck. Luckily, she escaped. The man died, and Mr. Yubao was in prison for life. But then something unprecedented happened, where a bunch of social media activists, human rights groups, mounted a sustained social media campaign. And guess what? The government folded. And today, Mr. Yubao is free. Now, I'll tell you this example because what Brando mentioned, the good versus evil scale. And that is very critical because like he mentioned, if Google goes after the Chinese money, that is evil, right? However, if they take the moral ground, China is just going to block Google. So you get the same end result. In fact, worse, because you just pissed off the Chinese. So based on that, we decided that based on the lesser of two evils, the good versus evil recommends that Google return to China. But there's more, right? Michael mentioned the Porter's 5 forces. And that is very important. It's a perfect model here because in China it's a very complex business environment. And Michael also mentioned that Google is in competition with Baidu. We've got about 23%, and it's not looking very good. They're clinging on to that, right? But there is a glimmer of hope. And that is because Michael did mention this, but of that 35% of Chinese net citizens who are online, the vast majority of them go online using the mobile handle. And that is where Google can take leverage because Google has the Android mobile operating system. And therefore, they can get the lion's share of the market there. So based on the Porter's 5 forces, the business model, it's also leaning towards Google returning China. So you can see we have 2 models. And both on its own merits recommend Google return to China. But did we forget anything? Well, I did pay attention in class, and we learned in class about a very traditional concept that is deeply rooted in thousands of years of business, dealings, and ethics in China. And that is Guanxi, right? Did I pronounce it correct? And Guanxi is important, right? Because you just ask any business person, they need to know it. I mean, ask any Chinese veteran. Guanxi is not just about business. It is the key to just about everything in China. But what did Google do? When Google left China, Google slapped China's face. And Google needs to redeem itself so it can save its own face. And that is why, but that is why the face is the fuel that makes both models spin. And Guanxi is the glue that makes them spin together. Now remember the scenario about Egypt, right? Imagine for a second that Egypt did not have Twitter. Would there have been a revolution? And imagine a time in the future when the Chinese people are ready to stand up for human rights. And Google wasn't there to support them. Would the Chinese people see tanks, or would they see tulips?